77 years of ridicule and strong denial. 77 years of calling everyone crazy.
Liars.
77 years. That's how long it took for the United States government to come out and acknowledge that UFOs exist, finally.
Now, UFOs or demons or fallen angels? Let me know in the comment section down below. Smash the like button.
On November 14, 2004, in the Pacific Ocean, 100 miles southwest of San Diego, California, the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, which included the nuclear-powered carrier and the missile cruiser USS Princeton, was conducting a series of drills before deployment in the Persian Gulf.
Okay.
Around 2 p.m., an operations officer on the Princeton sent an order to 2 FA-18F Super Hornet fighter jets from the Nimitz. The pilots were already in the air when they were told to stop their drills and go to a new location for a real-world task. Basically, they were doing safe practice drills, and the commanding officer decided to kick it up a notch and make them perform as if they were in battle. Even scarier, the officer asked if they had any real guns with them, to which the pilots replied, no. Now, unbeknown to the pilots in the training, the Princeton's very powerful radar had been picking up strange objects for a few days at that point. The Navy has a name for things it can't explain, called anomalous aerial vehicles, or AAVs, which is just another name for UFOs. The military liked this term better than unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, because UFOs were linked to flying ships, little green men, and frankly, a lot of crazy people. Their words, not mine.
So they went from unidentified to the AAVS thingy, whatever it is. Is it because they know what it is, so it's no longer unidentified? They secretly know what it is. They've identified it. They just don't want you to know what it is. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below.
Kevin Day, who was in charge of Princeton's radar at the time, said that over 100 AAVs showed up on his screen during that week. When he was being interviewed by the History Channel, he described the AAVs on his screen as watching snow fall from the sky.
Wow, that's a lot.
Day said that the AAVs showed up more than 80,000 feet in the air, which is much higher than what civilian or military planes normally fly. At first, the Princeton radar team didn't believe what they were seeing and thought that the strange things they were seeing were probably a malfunction or bug with their system. But once they were sure everything was working right, and more importantly, started seeing cases where the AAVs dropped incredibly quickly to lower, busier airspace, they knew it was. Definitely something worth checking out. In the military world, an unidentified thing or being is a threat because it could be an enemy trying to gather intelligence or worse, cause disruption or destruction. To ascertain what these AAVs or UFOs were, 2 fighter jets were sent in a different direction to meet one of the strange objects. The pilots were Commander David Fravor and Alex Dietrich. When they first got to the scene, the pilots didn't see anything, but they did observe what the lead pilot, Commander David Fravor, later referred to as a disturbance in the ocean. According to him, it looked like there was a large object just below the surface of the water that was being hit by white waves. After a while, they noticed one of the objects flying about 50 feet above the water. Fravor, the commander of the elite Black Aces squadron, who was a Top Gun program graduate with more than 16 years of flying experience, described
more than 16 years. He's probably spent longer in the sky than on land than most of you guys' job experience, so your normal work experience.
The object as about 40 feet long, shaped like a tic-tac candy.
Wow.
And with no obvious means of propulsion. You know what? I am just going to stop here and let him describe what he saw for you.
As we proceeded to the west, the air controller was counting down the range to an object that we were going to, and we were unaware of what we were going to see when we arrived. The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space. We arrived at the location at approximately 20,000 feet, and the controller called merge plot, which means that our radar blip was now in the same resolution cell as the contact. As we looked around, we noticed that we saw some whitewater off our right side. It's important to note that the weather on this day was as close to perfect as you could ask for off the coast of San Diego. Clear skies, light winds, calm seas, no whitecaps from waves. So the whitewater stood out in a large blue ocean. All four of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down saw a white tic-tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping pong ball. There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. As we started clockwise towards the object, my Wizzo and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the tic-tac. We proceeded around the circle about 90 degrees from the start of our descent, and the object suddenly shifted its longitudinal axis, aligned it with my aircraft, and began to climb. We continued down another 270 degrees, nose low, where the tic-tac, or we considered 270 degrees to where, and we went nose low to where the tic-tac would have been. Our altitude at this point was about 15,000 feet, and the tic-tac was about 12,000. As we pulled nose onto the object, within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. Our wingmen, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also. We immediately turned back to see where the whitewater was at, and it was gone also.
Wow.
So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute. You can calculate the speed." We returned to Nimitz. We were taking off our gear. We were talking to one of my crews that was getting ready to launch. We mentioned it to him, and they went out and luckily got the video that you see, that 90-second video. What you don't see is the radar tape that was never released, and we don't know where it's at, of the active jamming that the object put on an APG-73 radar, and I can get into modes later if you're interested.
This was the famous video he was referring to.
The whole fleet of them, look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
Imagine seeing that.
That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating.
The speed, look at the speed. You missed it.
Nickel 6-1 Tango, Roger, over. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get... You box moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly!
The video was captured by another FA-18 pilot, Lieutenant
That's
Chad
a
Underwood.
flying demon.
Unlike some videos where there are heavy debates about whether it's real or doctored, this time the US Navy came out to confirm that the videos were authentic. And what makes this...
So wait, why are they all of a sudden now telling us, yeah, it's all true, it's all real, all over the news, UFO. I find that suspicious. If you find that super suspicious, let me know in the comment section down below. But that is clearly... There's clearly an agenda going on. Satanic, super demonic. They've been knowing about this. Interdimensional. These are from different fallen angels. Look into it. Nephilim, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Not just Nephilim, just that'll get you down the rabbit hole. Nephilim, all of this fallen angel stuff, and then all of this demons. It's real. It's not. I'm not talking Disney. It's real.
What's so intriguing is that every witness in this case are all highly trained military personnel, including several very experienced radar operators and fighter pilots. This is not a random individual who is coming out to share their story. These are from people who spent 2 decades of their lives on facts and data, because that's what will literally save their lives.
I don't trust them.
In battle. Till now, they still tell people in their interviews that they don't believe in UFOs. Some take it further by saying things like, "I don't know what I saw. I basically saw it, but don't know what it is." That is up to you, the experts, to figure out what it is. So, these were not statements from people willing to risk 2 to 3 decades of their career for fame. Most of them only came forward a decade later to testify when the news leaked. and some even shared their story anonymously. In such, at the time of the sightings, these people were likely operating what is probably the most advanced flight technology ever made at that time. Still, no one can explain what they saw or how it moved, that it defied the very laws of physics. Naturally, there are laws that are hard-coded into our planet. Take, for example, Newton's first law of motion, which states an object at rest remains at rest, and an object in motion continues to move at a constant velocity, unless acted upon by an external force. So imagine, if you put your car in park, and then out of the blue, your car's gear enters drive or reverse. That means something weird definitely happened. And that was exactly what the tic-tac-toe was doing. Because planes have to follow the rules of physics, whether they are manned or not. They have to have some sort of source for liftoff and propulsion, which makes the plane or aircraft move forward. But all that was missing in the tic-tac. That's like buying a car without an engine, and yet it still works. To top it off, it dropped from about 50,000 feet to about 100 feet in a matter of seconds, which is practically impossible. And that's from another pilot's point of view. For David, it was from 80,000 feet. Footage of what Dietrich and Fravor witnessed that day, now popularly known as the Tic-Tac incident, was included in a report to Congress, along with 2 other declassified videos taken by U.S. Navy fighter jets in 2015 in similar encounters, with what the government calls unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, which again is another name for UFOs. It seems the government will do anything to make sure they are not caught saying the 3-letter word UFO.
Yeah.
Only people in the military and hardcore UFO fanatics knew about the Nimitz incident. It wasn't until 2017 that it got a lot of attention when the New York Times wrote a story about it and shared the video of the encounter. This led to an outbreak where numerous media and individuals were conducting several investigations to find out more information. The pilots involved became overnight celebrities of some sort, with everyone wanting to interview them. The more people investigated the story, the more we kept finding out things that left not just America, but the whole world stunned. People have been interested in UFOs since 1947, when Ken Arnold, a private pilot and reputable businessman, said he saw 9 disc-shaped objects moving at an estimated speed of over 1,000 miles per hour. He saw these planes while looking for a crashed plane near Mount Rainier National Park in Washington. After Arnold's report, people started coming out in their numbers, talking about unexplainable sightings they saw. This included citizens, military pilots, and air traffic managers all over the United States. In the same year the famous incident, Roswell happened, and the U.S. military officials said that the debris found near Roswell, New Mexico, was from a weather balloon that had crashed. However, theories of an alien ship that had gone down and the bodies of aliens that had been recovered have lingered on. Because of these kinds of events happening during the height of the Cold War, a CIA advisory group decided that UFO reports could be a threat to national security. Air Force General Nathan Twining, who was in charge of the Air Technical Service Command, started Project Sign, originally called Project Saucer, in 1948 to gather, organize, evaluate, and share all government information about UFO sightings. He did this because he thought they might be real and a threat to national security. While publicly dismissive of UFOs, the Air Force investigated and cataloged more than 12,000 sightings under its Project Blue Book program, categorizing 701 cases as unidentified before the project ended in 1969.
Where do they even get these project names, like Project Blue Bow, Project Fish Islands, Project Blue Beam?
So, it turns out that while they were lying to us and calling us crazy, they were actually funding programs and secret operations that monitored every UFO activity in the country and in some cases, in the world.
Crazy. Liars. How can you trust them? The whole thing is a lie.
The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, was a government project that started over 10 years ago, and its main aim for its creation was to find out the truth about UFOs. It was started by Harry Reid, a Democrat from Nevada, who was Senate Majority Leader at the time, and the program began in the Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA for short. This was a letter written by Harry Reid to Deputy Secretary of Defense William Lynn regarding the creation of the Advanced Aerospace Threat and Identification Program, AATIP. The link to the 4-page letter is in the description below if you want to read more about it. One thing that caught my attention was the admission of UFOs. The letter said, "Since the Advanced Aerospace Threat and Identification Program, AAITP and study were first commissioned, much progress has been made with the identification of several highly sensitive, unconventional aerospace-related findings. Given the current rate of success, the continued study of these subjects will likely lead to technology advancements that in the immediate near term will require extraordinary protection. Due to the sensitivities of the information surrounding aspects of this program, I require your assistance in establishing a Restricted Special Access Program, SAP, with a bigoted access list for specific portions of the AATIP. So according to this letter, the program was so successful in its findings that it is expanding by establishing another secret program. Due to the Freedom of Information Act, the DIA released a list of 38 research titles that were supported by the program. Many of them are very speculative and not at all related to current science, engineering, or military intelligence. According to some people in charge, AATIP was shut down, but again the government lied. The Pentagon admitted in 2020 that there was a program called the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force that worked like AATIP. Also, it turns out that they lied about shutting down the program in 2012. According to the program's former director, Luis Elizondo, AATIP was still operational even at the time he resigned from the program because he wasn't happy with how they were not taken seriously within the Defense Department.
They just lie about everything.
So,
don't they?
ladies and gentlemen, the government once again lied, but this time about their previous lies. But despite how they try to sweep this Tic Tac video as nothing alien, the official report says otherwise. The official report of the Tic Tac video names the high-tech sensors that were used at the time, such as the ANSPY, which can track a golf ball at 100 miles away, the E-2C Hawkeye airborne early warning planes, shipboard radars, and sensors on several F-18s that interacted with the Tic Tac as well as whatever was below the water. Several pilots reported a large disturbance just under the surface of the ocean that was round and 100 yards across.
Imagine that in real life.
It appeared as if the Tic Tac was meeting up with the underwater object. This 13-page report includes statements from 7 F-18 pilots, as well as radar operators on the ships. One of the most important things the report says is that the AAV does not belong to the United States or any other country, and it was so advanced that it rendered U.S. capabilities ineffective. It showed velocities far greater than anything known to exist, and it could turn itself invisible, both to radar and the human eye.
Now that's deep. Shoom, shoom, in and out. Phew, you can't see me. No John Cena, baby. We're not wrestling.
Essentially,
Crazy.
It was undetectable and unchallenged, which, if I am being honest, is a cause for concern. Despite the seriousness of the encounter, the pilots faced ridicule after their encounters and briefings. The Navy's initial report was buried, not forwarded to the command, and in such, the AAV or UFO was deemed not a threat. Now, some people, despite all this overwhelming evidence and testimonies from different reputable people, still believe what those pilots witnessed that day was mundane, simple, or human. One idea is that what the pilots saw could have been a radar reflector balloon used to test how well enemy air defenses worked. Launched by a submarine, these specially designed airborne devices actually date back to 1955, during the days of the Cold War. No one knows for sure if these kinds of balloons are still used today, but because of the covert nature of submarines, it's definitely something defense chiefs won't be talking about casually. And this makes sense because most military missions are need-to-know basis. You could serve your entire career and not know that your boss or branch was part of an operation that stopped Osama or some other weird things.
Secrecy.
A perfect example was the development of the Hiroshima nuclear bomb. Most people who worked on it didn't know they worked on it, despite being colleagues at work. The War Zone, an online magazine that covers and analyzes national security and geopolitics, was the first to come up with the idea. It said that putting up radar-reflecting balloons while underwater would be a highly effective way to learn about an enemy's air defenses. They could theoretically get a lot better intelligence by sneaking into or near enemy territory and set these devices off when the weather is right. But that doesn't explain the speed of its travel, the jamming of signals. Until now, no tech in the world, not just in the US, has replicated what happened that day.
If there is a foreign adversary, let's say Russian or China or anybody else, who happens to have this technology and they've had it for decades, and we in the United States have somehow been strategically leapfrogged in our technology, we've got a big problem on our hands.
And so one has to ask the question that if really a country had this technology, would it be necessary to steal much more basic technology from another country? Furthermore, if you had this type of technology, you probably wouldn't need to invest so much in military because you had this, if you will, checkmate type technology or capability where everything else now becomes obsolete. And so this goes to your last part of your question. Do I feel or do I believe this is, quote, extraterrestrial? Let me be very careful before I answer that by saying, at the end of the day, Jackie, it doesn't matter what I think or what I believe. What matters is what the data and the facts tell us. And from that perspective, it's very important that I had a very simple job, and that is to collect the truth and speak the truth.
That was from the former director of ATIP, Luis Elizondo, basically telling us if it speaks like a duck, walks like a duck, and eats like a duck, it's definitely a duck, and not a high-performance technological craft from China or Russia.
Now, talking about high performance, I care for all of the subscribers that watch me and they do want to become high performers. Guys, this video isn't sponsored by anybody, but for a long time now I've been running my other YouTube channels and showing people how to grow on YouTube and actually make money on YouTube. So I thought I'll bring it to my Christian channel as well to show you guys as proof. Let me refresh the page right there. It's refreshing, and as you can see, this month alone we've been able to bring in £1,598. In dollars is probably 1,800 and something, I believe. If you are interested, link is somewhere in the description down below. By all means, you don't have to, but I thought, hey, Christians need to make money too. And now with the transparency out of the way, let's get back into the video.
For reference, that's like your president coming out on national television to tell you aliens exist. But I understand why people might not be so quick to admit otherwise. The problem with UFO confession is like when you pour oil into water, it's hard to separate the truth from the lies. You might not know this, but the government and the CIA also supported and endorsed claims of UFO sightings.
Crazy.
It's confusing, but let me explain what I mean. The Pentagon and the US Air Force have a long history of spreading false information. One way they do this is by using the deep cultural roots of UFOs to hide improvements in space technology. If national security is at risk, it's better to let people think they saw a UFO than to tell them about the latest technology.
Crazy.
A 1997 story from the New York Times shows that the CIA and Air Force pushed UFO theories to hide sightings of their U-2 and SR-71 spy planes. I remember covering a video where I came to this conclusion about someone's UFO experience, and some people in the comments thought it was senseless that the government would go to such lengths for a cover-up. I am sorry to burst your bubbles, but they can, and yes, I love reading your comments. All 10,000 of them. This makes sense, since misinformation is the only way to keep some things secret in a society like ours, where the government can't easily control the flow of public information. Now, I'm not saying all UFO experiences are doctored. In fact, there are real government agents in mysterious suits, like Men in Black, whose job is to show up after supposed genuine UFO reports and contain the situation. Just as we have genuine experiences, we also have altered ones.
Okay. This whole thing is a psychological warfare operation going back since 1953, 70 years, when they concluded they could use the whole UFO issue for its psychological warfare value. And I'm quoting from the CIA document we have, and that I provided in briefings to people at the White House and Congress. So I think that you have to understand, what does that mean? It means
it's basically
exactly what I just told you. So let's talk about this. There are three different phenomena masquerading as alien. One is actual extraterrestrial. The other are what we call stagecraft. Like in the early days, we have an Air Force intelligence officer who's a witness on camera. And this is actually in our documentary called Unacknowledged. It's had over 700 million people see it. You can see it on Amazon or Tubi or whatever. And he states that they had staged these abductions, and in the early days would take a very short man and then make them up like Hollywood style to look like an alien, and they'd be put on these man-made UFOs, and they would go and abduct people. Now, to what purpose? It's what we just talked about, for the psychological warfare, so they could convince and brainwash people that there was a threat.
But for this story, we can say the CIA has nothing to do with it.
What I want you guys is to go watch the rest of the video on Motec's channel, smash the like button, and check out this awesome video you're seeing right there. For my opinion, all fallen angels, it's a massive psyop with us going on. Wake up, people. Let's talk in the comment section down below. God bless you.